Howdy do to all of you. This is Emmett Watkins Jr. and I am back with yet another review. A lot of rapid fire reviews we've been doing over the last couple days on this channel, but today we're not talking about movies. No, we're talking about Eminem's new surprise drop album, Music to Be Murdered By. We're gonna review the whole thing. Now I'll tell you, this video is going to be a little bit different than my other album reviews. How I usually do it is that I do a track by track breakdown, and then I go through that for most of the video and then end with my overall thoughts on the album. But I do realize, especially when it comes to Eminem and just with the last couple album reviews I've done, that track breakdown takes me so long. And these videos end up being almost an hour long, or well past an hour long. And so for the sake of, I know people want to know what I think about this album, but I don't think they want to watch an hour long video from me. So I'm going to give my general impressions, my overall thoughts on this album here at the top, and then we'll continue on with the track by track breakdown if you want to get into specifics as to why I like the album. But without further ado, as I've already said, I like the album. It's a little bit different than what I was expecting. Well, I guess it's... Here's my issue, though. I do enjoy the album. Overall, I do enjoy the album. I feel like I would have enjoyed this album so much more, and I'd be so much more hyperbolic about my feelings and just so much more excited about its existence if it came out end of this year, early 2021, just sometime further out in the future. I feel like I could have gone another year because Kamikaze's year anniversary was just this past December. And getting this a little over a year later felt too soon. I didn't miss Eminem yet. And I think that's we've kind of gotten into this, I guess, cycle where M will drop an album and then disappear for 2 years, 3 years, and then he'll drop a couple tracks, disappear for 2 or 3 years, and then drop another album after another disappearance. And this is the first time where we've had an Eminem album every year for the last 3 years now. Well, I guess with the exception of 2019, which technically didn't have one, but this is so close to 2019, it might as well be in 2019. Had one in 2017, had one in 2018, and right at the beginning of 2020, right off of 2019. So 3 back-to-back albums for Eminem, and I fear that the issue is going to be, we're going to get into a Logic issue where people love Logic, or people loved Logic. We all saw the potential in him. We all knew that, this guy was just incredibly talented when it comes to lyrics wise, and his production was on point. Just a lot of reasons that Logic was, a shining star in hip hop, especially in like underground hip hop, for a while on his come up. And we kind of just got tired of him because we got album after album after album that I wouldn't even say they dropped in quality that much. It's more that it was just so much of him in such a short amount of time. Sometimes not even a year break in between some of these albums. You get like 10 months and then there's another album. It was just too much Logic in too short of amount of time, and we didn't miss him. And so hopefully he's not going to have another album this year. Hopefully we go for a while without him having an album. But I fear Eminem is going to get into that same spot because this album, I enjoyed it. I like it more than Revival, of course, and in some ways I enjoy it more than Kamikaze, where Kamikaze was kind of a guilty pleasure. I mean, if we're being honest, all Eminem is a guilty pleasure, like literally every song he makes nowadays, and a lot of his old stuff too. But Kamikaze was kind of a guilty pleasure because it was a response album. It was a diss track stretched out into an album. So every single song on there felt like it was a response to the hate of Revival, whether directly by calling out people who hated on Revival, or indirectly just by bringing that type of energy on a track. And even on some of the songs where it didn't have anything to do with the reception of Revival, it still had some impactful songs on there. You look at that D12 song in Stepping Stones, where he's talking about his relationship with D12. All those songs had an impact, with the exception of maybe Good Guy and Nice Guy at the end of the song, or at the end of the album. those felt more like, let's make something for the pop masses or so, or just a reason to collaborate with Jesse Reyes. Those songs were still good, but they kind of didn't fit with that theme that I'm talking about. But in any case, we were excited about Kamikaze because if you were or are an Eminem fan, Revival came out, and even if you liked it personally, you had to deal with so much vitriol and so much hate for that album that it didn't even feel worth defending or it didn't even feel worth saying, hey, I like this track in a vacuum, not even responding to a hater or something. It felt like it wasn't even worth saying, hey, I know the album's bad, but I like this song, because what you're going to get back from the internet is just, why the hell are you even an Eminem fan? And so it was just a really bad time for Eminem fans in general. And when Kamikaze came out, that was a smack in the face, and it was like, yo, my love for this artist is justified to a lot of people. And so, it was a good time, and having that surprise drop kind of made the impact of that so much greater than this album with its surprise drop, because this surprise drop felt less like, oh snap, he's back, and more like, oh, we got some more. Like, it feels like a sequel to Kamikaze in a opposite way that Kamikaze felt like a response and a complete 180 from Revival. And that's how I'm feeling on it. That's like my main qualm with it. My main issue is that I'd be so much more in love with this album if it wasn't so close to the last one. And I hope Eminem takes a little while to, like I said for Logic, I think I said this for everybody, or maybe I've just said this on Twitter and other places, but I hope Logic takes a break from albums and goes out and lives life a little bit so that he can come back to music and have some other stuff to say, where Eminem is in a similar path where, yes, he's still a lot of violence, a lot of references to violence that has happened in real life in his songs. A lot of he's using the same, he's going back to the well for the same ideas for his songs. He's he's rapping about his drug addiction. He's rapping about breaking up with women and like a lot of breakup songs and disdain for some of the relationships he's been in. Still making songs about how much he hates his dad and stepdad and all this stuff. And like, I get that this is what you relate to, and this is what you can talk about because this is your life and this is what you live. But you've been making music for well over 20 years now, and the old stuff is good. And I don't even think he's trying to go back to his old stuff as far as stylistic wise or content wise or anything. It just seems like this is all he has to talk about. And I would much prefer him to stick to the lane of something like Darkness, which is a track on the album that is from the viewpoint of the Mandalay Bay shooter from Las Vegas. I think that was, even though some of that is flawed in that song, I think that type of thing is what I think Eminem could do way better. I think he has potential if he goes into different perspectives and raps from other people's perspectives, because we have a 360 degree view of his own perspective listening through his music throughout the years, and we all understand him. We all understand him. Now, I'll be honest, there's a lot of people out there that think they understand Eminem from the music he's made. Like, a lot of people might just write him off as just a piece of human trash that shouldn't be making music or anything like that, and they'll cite all the things he said about his mom, they'll cite all the things he said about Kim, they'll cite all those things. But then if you've really been listening to the music, you'll remember Headlights that he put out on Marshall Mathers LP 2 apologizing to his mom. You'll remember Bad Husband, where he kind of made amends to Kim on Revival. You'll remember these parts. And so no matter how much he sticks in this lane and sticks on these same themes and tones, either side of the opinion on Eminem knows what they're going to know, and M can't really do much else to change our opinions on the matter. So I hope he takes this and he takes the modern instrumentation. That's one positive on this album. He uses a lot of great instrumentals that feel like they're relevant in today's age, something that he started with Kamikaze and has continued successfully here. I hope he takes that. I hope he continues, of course, the immaculate wordplay that he's known for. That's always a highlight from Eminem. He always, some of the bars in here are just incredible. Just some of the punchlines and stuff in this album are great. I hope he continues working with other artists, because for a long time Eminem has been he's probably not afraid, but it just seems like he's selfish when he makes his music, and he wants to take up every second on a track, where you're one of the greatest rappers of all time by a lot of people's opinion. You should be using that status to get some of these other rappers on here, and not just working with these younger people to get them shine, like, you know, Young M.A.'s on this album, Anderson .Paak's on this album. You know, he's worked with Logic in the past, he's worked with all these other rappers. It's not just bringing up the new generation, but also acknowledge that you are a historic figure in rap by working with the Q-Tips of the world. Q-Tip is on this album, one of the members of the legendary Tribe Called Quest. Work with the Black Thoughts, who's, as you know, a part of the Roots, but is also an incredible MC in his own right. Start working with these types of artists more, and just acknowledge your position in hip hop a little bit more in that way. Like I've said this forever, but I hope one day he makes a DJ Premier album where the whole album is just produced by DJ Premier, and it just has that classical 90s like boom bap hip hop sound to it. I think he could do a lot with something like that. And so I hope he takes those aspects of this album and runs with it in a direction that doesn't include the same territory that he's conquered before. I think, you know, Eminem, of course, has plenty of potential, even in his older age. I believe he's in his 40s now. Or he's deep into his 40s, I believe, because I remember when he first got on the scene, he was somewhere in his 20s, and it's been 25 years since then. So he's well into his 40s by now. But I believe Eminem has a chance to, because we're going to eat his stuff up. Fans of his, this man put out a 12-minute song that barely had an instrumental, and we all ate it up. So, you know, stans are going to eat whatever he puts on the plate. But I think he has a potential to be seen as, you know, a GOAT once again by other audiences if he, you know, embraces his position in hip-hop a little bit more, and also just sticks to the more modern instrumentation. And I understand he likes to produce his own songs, and some of the songs he produces are great. I just think he needs a couple more critical ears on his side to tell him when an instrumental isn't that great, or if it needs a little bit more punching up. And also, just don't work with Rick Rubin anymore, because that's one thing I realized listening to this album. I was an apologist for Rick Rubin for a lot of the songs he made for Revival. I was like, these are fine. And then I eventually deteriorated to, well, this isn't for the hip hop heads of us. This isn't for us who are looking for hip hop. He has to appeal to the Kyles of the world as well. And then I kind of faded all now, especially after listening to Kamikaze and this album back to back with way better instrumentation. I've come all the way around to say, okay, Rick Rubin, yeah, we can leave him in the past at this point. He's not going to get Eminem any more fans, especially when the Kyles of the world are listening to The Baby and all these other, you know, they're listening to Young Thug, Quavo, Migos, all these other guys. They're listening to the modern hip hop sounds now as well. So if you're trying to appeal to them, then you need to use the music they're listening to. So yeah, I hope M just continues to embrace his hip hop side. Try not to go further into the pop or the rock side. I hope he embraces that hip hop side more and comes back with another potential classic. But in any case, this album I still do like quite a bit, and we're gonna get into why I like this album by doing track by track breakdowns. Now, how this is gonna work, I'm just gonna break down my thoughts on the track, things I picked up. Bar facts is a thing that I made up specifically for this album. This is something I used to do back on some of the other reviews I've done for musical albums. And bar facts is just like, these are the bars in the song that I thought were noteworthy, thought were really, really good, and I have to highlight. So let's go ahead and get into the first track, the introduction with Premonition. Now, I'll say right now, I do like this track. I like this track a lot, but it was just so, like, especially the first time I heard this, it was more of just a shock. So it wasn't until the second, third, fourth listen and so on that my eyes started to roll. We're still on this hyper violent Eminem vibe I see. I'm not really down with this vibe. Now, this is like that type of, like, Eminem is not one to shy away from using violence in his music and imagery and the themes of violence in general. Ooh, excuse me. Got something inside of me that just wants to pop out, I guess. I don't know what that was. It wasn't a burp. It was just a mouth thing. Anywho, yeah, I'm just a little bit annoyed with the hyper violence. Like, to literally start the album with a woman being stabbed is just so in your face, where it's not shocking because we expect it from Eminem. It's not funny at all, and I don't think it's played for laughs. And it doesn't add much to it. And I understand that Alfred Hitchcock is a big inspiration for this album specifically. It's literally named after Music to Be Murdered By, which is Alfred Hitchcock's album. I understand it's about, the hyper violence that comes from it, Alfred Hitchcock, but just starting with that just doesn't get me excited to listen to the rest of the album. Because, like, that's the type of stuff that, like, annoys me about Eminem. Like, Revival, when he had that song Framed, like, talking about severed limbs and body parts and stuff, despite me liking that song for its lyrical excellence and for some great flows and everything, it's so cringy to just hear him do this horrorcore type stuff. And I'm just not a fan of it. I know some people are going to like it. I know that's probably the type of shit that Kyle's will eat up. And I'm going to use Kyle's a lot because I saw that on Twitter when, I literally saw a meme of someone saying, here's a picture of all the Kyles getting hyped that this new Eminem album came out. And I'm like, all right, kind of salty because, I'm not that demographic, but I get the joke. So I think that side of Eminem's fan base lives for that shit. I do not personally, so I'm kind of turned off by it. But nonetheless, instrumentally, the song goes hard. The beat on this knocks incredibly hard. And it gives me vibes of, if you remember that G-Unit song, and when I say G-Unit, I'm talking back when the Game was still a part of it. So like Lloyd Banks, 50 Cent, all those guys, Young Buck, all those guys, made that song You Don't Know. Eminem was featured on it, and this is this type of vibe I'm getting, where Em is just going hard on the beat, and he sounds vicious, he sounds hungry when he's spitting his verse in this one, and it's just really satisfying to hear. It definitely gives me old school M vibes in that way, and so just hearing the introduction be a track like that gets me hyped to listen to the whole song. I don't need to hear a blade piercing someone's skin. That's not the first thing I want to hear on your album. And even if that's like going with this whole, theme of Music to Murder By, a lot of these songs don't support that theme. So why even adhere to that theme? But anywho, continuing on with the bar facts for this one. I only have one bar listed for this song. There's other good bars in there as well. Oh, well, before I even get to the bar facts, he talks about his grievances with the difference in criticisms from Revival to Kamikaze, which I thought was funny as well. Not funny that he mentioned it, but just it in and of itself. The criticisms that were different, where people said, oh, Revival, M's trying to be woke, but it's lame and no one likes it and the music's bad. And then Kamikaze's like, all right, you just want me to be angry and mad? Then I'm just gonna be mad the whole album. And then people are like, oh, he has nothing to say, he sounds bitter, blah blah blah. And it's like you can't please him. So I'm saying this for Eminem specifically. If you can't please him, then just do what you want to do. Just make the music that you want to make and stop worrying about trying to satisfy fans, stop trying to satisfy reviewers and all these other people. Just make it because you want to make it, and don't feel pressured by other people to rap about certain things or rap in a certain way, and just do what you think is good. Don't use Rick Rubin because you think we like that type of music still. Nah. Like 99 Problems is still a good song, which is actually Rick Rubin produced 99 Problems by Jay-Z. So some people might not know that. That sounds great, but we don't need whole albums of that type of bombastic sound. So use these new. I know Eminem's listening to all these new artists. I know he's interested in some of these sounds, so you should definitely use that legendary status to go to these other producers and see if they want to work with you and see what they got for you. And that is what he did for this album, and it definitely works to great effect. And so bar facts for this song. He has one bar where he says, "Because if you diss me, I'm coming after you," like the letter V. I thought that was a good bar, just for, playing with the alphabet. You do the whole alphabet, you get to the letter U, and then what comes after U? V. I thought that was good, just coming after you. It's not the hardest bar in the world, but I thought it was clever because it actually took me by surprise. I didn't really catch it the first time, and I was like, oh, that's actually pretty good. So yeah, it's a medium bar. We gotta start small before we get bigger. And speaking of bigger, Unaccommodating, one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's the second track here. This is actually featuring Young M.A. Yeah, and she holds her own on this song incredibly well. Now, I haven't heard too much from Young M.A. I've maybe heard 5 songs of hers total overall. But they've always been fine songs. I feel like she's definitely she can rap, which I think is a qualification to be on an Eminem album in the first place. To have a verse on an Eminem album, I should say. She can definitely hold her own, and she holds her own on here. Some pretty good alliteration from her. A lot of long rhyme schemes. That's the type of stuff I eat up when it comes to hip hop. So I loved all that stuff. M gets on the track and displays a couple more, some more shots at MGK. Not really noteworthy. It feels like at this point, it's not like he's making diss tracks for MGK, or even Nick Cannon gets brought up a little bit in this album. He's not making diss tracks towards them or even saying specific things towards them. Those are just now names that he can use to just throw in a track to just spice it up a little bit, so that you'll notice, so that some of his lines stick out a little bit more. Now it's just another tool in his toolbox, so to speak. So that one's okay. He has a line in here about the Ariana Grande concert shooting. That's pretty fucking vile. Oh my god. No, I had hiccups at work, so if these hiccups come in the middle of this commentary, I'm a punch through this plate glass window. But yeah, that Ariana Grande line, it's kind of fucked up in the fact that, it's a shooting, it's one of your fellow artists, and it's just really like, I know that happened, a couple years ago now, maybe 2017 or 18. But still, that was like kind of weird. And it's also weird in the fact that when that shooting happened, Eminem was on his personal Twitter just saying, hey, like, let's get some donations for these families. He was sharing his support and his love for Ariana and all the victims for that. So yeah, that was weird. But it was, and it's also weird once we get to Darkness, which is, all about public shootings. And it shows where he sincerely stands on the matter. But just, he uses a lot of bars in this album relating to mass shootings, and it's insensitive, yes, but it's it's Eminem. So I didn't really expect something different. It's just a little bit like, oh, we're still doing that. Okay. And it makes sense. It's not like he's using this purely for the shock value. He's relating this to the typical braggadocious, the typical hyperviolence of a lot of these more aggressive rappers. Because back in the day, I'll kill you on a track is something that everyone said in hip hop, but it takes, wordsmiths out there to go and illustrate that same point in more colorful ways. And using, public acts of violence like this is one of the ways in which that's expressed. So, can't get too mad at him because, this is what hip hop does. He's just doing it with things that happened more recently, pulling straight out of the headlines. But hey, that's what M does. This isn't only, he doesn't even do just mass shootings. He's talked about, some murder cases as far as like serial killer cases. He's talked about kidnapping cases that have happened in the news. A lot of stuff. So, there's no shortage of that controversialness from Shady. And this track definitely feels like a mixtape song. This whole album kind of gives me a mixtape vibe just in the way that it's made. Just this beat, how it comes in just instantly. There's a lot of producer tags on here, and everything feels not necessarily made for the radio, and it doesn't feel super duper polished in the same way that Revival did at times. This track specifically felt so much like just a cut that you would hear on like a Dedication 6 from Lil Wayne, or something that will pop up on like On the House, one of Slaughterhouse old mixtapes. Just stuff like that. And I actually like that fact. I like it because it kind of puts more emphasis on the bars, and on mixtapes it's not about making a perfect song, it's about just getting your punchlines off on a track and just being as slick as you can with your wordplay. I love that shit. I eat that up. So I was really happy to see that for Unaccommodating. And my bar facts on this one: run up in a church like pew pew pew. Small bar, kind of medium, but I like it because, of course, you know, there's pews in the church. That's what you sit on. And pew, 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 because he fires off these bars. Also, a weird possible reference to the Texas shooting that happened in the church a while back, which is also wild. But as I've already explained my, thoughts on Eminem bringing up shooting. So from Unaccommodating, we go on to You Gon' Learn, which is featuring Royce da 5'9" and White Gold. This song, instrumentally, first off, I like this song. I like it not as much as Unaccommodating, but I do enjoy this song. Now, instrumentally is the thing that kind of screws it up for me just a little bit. This is produced by Royce da 5'9", so I don't want to talk shit on it because I like Royce da 5'9". But when this song comes on instrumentally, I feel that urge to skip it at times, where I'm just like, oh, I'm not in the mood. This isn't going to be hype. But it's one of those beats where it's mellow and it's more of a smooth move. So you don't initially think, oh, they're going to kill this beat. This isn't like the type of beat that comes on and you're thinking, oh, they're going to eat this shit up. No, this is the type of beat where you like ride it. You ride the wave that is the instrumentation and the bass and everything else. And first to bat, Royce da 5'9" rides this beat incredibly well. Some really cool woke bars from him. And his woke bars actually stick out a lot more because Eminem straight up says in this album that y'all wanted to woke me, y'all hated to woke me, so I'm canceling that. And he actually said that similar thing in Kamikaze. And because of that, all of the wokeness on this album that is given mostly by guest artists, it sticks out a lot more because all of the other bars are pretty much in Eminem's standard wheelhouse of just being, really aggressive, braggadocious about his lyrical ability, and sometimes hyperviolent, sometimes offensive. So yeah, I thought You Gon' Learn was good. When it comes to White Gold, his contribution, he really just does the hook. He's pretty good. I don't have a problem with White Gold. He just, on this track, he didn't like stick out to me in any way. It's just, another feature, another singer feature, which is something Eminem does a lot. He has a lot of features that are just singers, which is why it's so cool that he has so many rap features on this album, which is definitely something I commend him on for not being so selfish with his with the space on his records. And so just talking a little bit about the bar facts. So this bar from Royce da 5'9" really got me. This is actually a series of bars, so bear with me here. If y'all against talking reparation, then I'm not against the thought of separation. While the politicians that are white and privileged ask how it's different from segregation, that's funny, bro. Segregation is being told where I'm gonna go. Separation is being woke and going wherever I want to go. That bar hit so hard, and that might be the wokest shit on this entire album. I thought, because Royce has been in that woke pocket for a while now, but it's just so like, the way he can say that with the slickness and smoothness and just the like it's like when you say fuck you to somebody without putting up your finger or saying the words. Like he's just slick with the shit. Like that was like the way he delivered that was excellent, and I totally did not do it justice just now, but you should listen to the song. And then another one, these two are from Eminem. So another bar facts: I'm with the gal at Checkers Wildin', bumping fuck the police while I fed her rallies. I like that bar a lot because it works in multiple ways. He's saying he's at Checkers and Rallies. He's feeding her Rallies. Those are both two different names for the same company. So I thought that was just remarkable, number one. Number two, while I fed her Rallies is a word that also means the police. So it's just another, like, I don't know if you call that double entendre, triple entendre, what you call it. And that's a big debate in hip hop too, all these entendre talks. it just has multiple meanings there. And so I really like when he does that. He does that a couple of times on this album, and I dig almost every time he does that, and I think that's really neat. And then another bar of facts, I'll pop up and I'll take a spot from you. I'll get to doing what a leaky faucet do. And I ain't talking drip when I say that I'll get the drop on you. Fucking excellent bar as well. Of course, making reference to drip, like, yo, I got that drip, like I'm well dressed or whatever, or I'm looking cool. And then taking that to say, he's going to get the drop on you. I think that was just very clever. Of course, I feel so weird talking about these bars and saying they're clever and everything, because it's not going to hit with everybody. I feel like M, when he takes these songs, he's looking at them more as, he looks at an instrumental like a empty puzzle board, and then he can put the pieces anywhere he wants to and makes them interlock in weird ways and just relates things here and there with different meanings and stuff. I think I can see the technicality in his rhymes when I listen to it with repeat viewings and I make these notes, because hey, my notes are super long. Like, I have a shit ton of notes. So listening back to these songs, that's why I like Eminem and rappers like him, like your Slaughterhouses, your Little Brothers, just these very lyrical heavy rappers, because they always have punchlines in there, and depending on their lyrical ability, they're able to have other levels to their words. So it's not just, oh, he said this and that's the joke. No, there's like different, like, this sounds like this, which also means this, and then that kind of, and then you put these words together and it makes a new word that sounds like this. It's the type of shit I love from him. So yeah, that's another bar from him that I enjoyed. And then after that, we go on to the first skit in the album, Alfred, the Interlude. These skits are making an attempt to give an overarching theme to the album, with it being inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's, Music to be Murdered By. And I don't really like these skits. It's not that I dislike the skits itself, it's that these songs are not coherent enough with each other for this to be the overarching theme of the album. And I feel that on past Eminem reviews, I've asked him to, or I've requested that he make albums that have a coherent theme, that are consistent throughout towards one specific goal. And this seems to be his attempt at that. I don't think this is a great attempt, because Music to be Murdered By, I would expect the whole album to just be a series of songs that are like scary, spooky, creepy, like just foreboding in some way. A lot of these songs aren't. Some of these songs are straight up pretty and pleasant to listen to. And some of these are just fun to listen to. So I don't really understand that being the theme that he goes with. But nonetheless, the attempt to apply that theme to this album doesn't really ruin the album for me. So, I'll give it that. And so, yeah, I don't really dig the skits. Once again, not for the skits themselves, but just for the attempt at that being the theme. I don't think that's a good theme to make everything, to wrap this whole thing around. But it is what it is. On to the next track, Those Kind of Nights. DA produced this one. DA is a producer who did a lot of work with like Travis Scott, Young Thug. He actually made ZZ, which is that song with Kodak Black, Young Thug, or not Young Thug, Kodak Black, Travis Scott, and Offset from Migos. So of course, modern instrumentation, the type of shit that I was hoping M would embrace more. He's definitely doing so on here. And I think the instrumentation is actually pretty well. Overall, the song gives a very like spacey, what's the word I used? A delirious type vibe. It's very like we've been partying too hard and we're just going a little crazy and we're kind of faded and all that stuff. That's the type of vibe I get from this song. It's definitely it's a banger. Like there's heavy bass underneath that kind of gives everything, that kind of peps it up and makes it to where I could see this being played in a club or something like that. And Ed Sheeran, who's featured on here for the hook, fits surprisingly well on here. I thought, with his feature that him and M did for River on Revival, that was so made to play on a pop station. It was kind of sick. Sick to listen to. And I didn't really play that one in rotation too much because it just sounded like, hey, remember Love the Way You Lie? Let's do that, but with the popular white boy instead of the popular black girl. Which, you got to do because record labels, I guess. But it just didn't hit. But this one, I could actually listen to quite a bit. I don't feel the urge to skip this one as much. And it actually has it has a really remarkable set of bars here too. So yeah, I dig this track pretty much, pretty well, I should say. And it even has a vibe of like Purple Pills from the old D12 days. But like I said, that bass line kind of makes it a little bit more peppy and less like meandering or purposefully meandering. So let's get to the bar facts. Bar facts. This bar from Eminem, a series of bars once again, but this one's going to be worth the long read. Holy Toledo, it's Miss Ohio. That's the best ass I've seen in a while. We should be dating. She's from Cleveland. But she's a Bengal. This chick is catty. Is that a midi skirt? Is that a maxi? That's the shortest thing for a dress, Cincinnati. Now, you probably picked up a lot of that stuff on the first go around, but I love this series of bars right here. Just Holy Toledo, Miss Ohio, we should be dating, Cleveland, just all of those, Toledo, Dayton, Toledo, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, all cities in Ohio. All that was just like immaculate right there, number one. And then she's a Bengal. This chick is catty. Bengal is, I think, the Cincinnati Bengals. Actually, let me make sure before I say this, because I said this earlier and I don't know if I'm correct. So I'm going to check that real quick. Yep, I was right. The Cincinnati Bengals are the NFL team for that city. So yeah, that makes sense as well. Just connecting all these things together in a really cool way. And then when he calls the chick catty, Bengal is a tiger, so cat. Just another awesome thing. And then the shortest thing for address, Cincinnati. That works because Cincinnati is a city in Ohio. And then also the shortest thing for address. If you think of the word address, the slang for address is addy. Like, what's the addy? What's the address? And just that works so well because it's an abbreviation for shortest thing for a dress, Cincinnati. That just it's like a fucking quadruple entendre or some shit. It's just remarkable. I don't understand how he does shit like that. And so I just ate that up. That was a great bar. And another bar that was kind of medium tier, Getting Head in the Bucket, Marshmallow. I thought that one was clever because he's referencing how, he's with this young lady, they're in the car, and he has bucket seats in the car, of course, and, she's giving him head in a bucket, like the recording artist Marshmallow, who is often seen with his head in a bucket, pretty much, in a similar way that Daft Punk wears their helmets and everything. I thought that was clever. It took me a while to actually pick up on what he was actually saying, but once I did, I was like, oh shit, that's really good, because I don't listen to Marshmallow or anything, so I was gonna pick that up naturally. From there, we go on to Into Deep. I like this track a lot. Now, I can't tell you, this isn't one of those tracks where it's about, lyrical miracle, making these crazy punchlines and everything. This is pretty much one of Eminem's hundreds and hundreds of infidelity songs where he's like, oh, I love you and you love me, but we can't be each other because we're cheating on our spouses, blah, 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 blah. This is territory that M has treaded before. And, because of that, it kind of dulls it a little bit. But I think this is one of Eminem's best types of this song he's ever made. The chorus of this is just so pretty. It's just beautiful. And I know it feels weird to compliment Eminem for singing, but I never get to. Like, Eminem is, I don't think his strong suit is not singing ever. Like, I mean, he's admitted this himself, listen to Haley's song on the Eminem show. And it's just, I told you I can't sing, but I feel like fucking singing. He felt like singing here, and it worked very well. It just sounds pretty almost to hear him on that hook. It just flows so well. I'm sure they did something in post to make him sound like that. I don't think he's been going to singing classes or anything that extreme, but yeah, I think the hook on this sounds great. Just instrumentally as well. It's a very quaint instrumental. Quaint is the word I use for this. It kind of has the vibe of, now this is going to be a weird thing to approximate it to, but if you remember that Ben Stiller, Drew Barrymore movie Duplex, where it wasn't necessarily a dark comedy, but just its color tones were very muted, and it was still like kind of slapstick and whimsical at the same time. So it feels like it's like lighthearted and a little bit like slapstick, but it's also like muted because the song is about a sad thing, infidelity. You can't be with the other person even though you want to. It is ultimately about a sad thing, but the beat just kind of makes it a little bit silly. And then also Eminem's delivery, it's hard to take him super duper seriously on some songs, so I think it adds to that as well. So yeah, In Too Deep, one of my favorite tracks on the album. I really dig it despite me not having a bar fax for it. And then we go on to a song with 2 bar facts, Godzilla featuring Juice WRLD. I thought this was awesome. Juice WRLD, as we know, unfortunately, he died a couple weeks back. Just gone way too soon. And I felt bad too because I was just starting to get to that point where I was like, maybe I should listen to Juice WRLD, because for me, it takes a while for me to want to listen to an artist. Like in the case of in the case of Slaughterhouse, we'll say, it took many times hearing them pop up on Eminem albums, and they were on like the Fast and Furious 5 soundtrack, and I just hear them here or there, and I was like, these guys are pretty good, I'll check them out one day. And then one day turned into 300 and then once I did finally check them out, I was like, oh god, these guys are great. And Juice WRLD, I was listening to, I heard him on Slump God's album, and I heard him on features here and there. I think he had a whole tape with Future. I think I checked out 1 or 2 songs from there, and it was getting to the point where I was like, yo, Juice WRLD is like pretty good. And I saw there was some video going viral of him freestyling, and he could actually spit. And I was like, yo, I need to check this guy out. And then sadly he expired on us. But Godzilla is a great feature from him nonetheless. When I say he holds his own, he works very well on the track. He only does the chorus, unfortunately. I think, judging from that freestyle I heard, I think he could have easily held his own with Eminem. But I understand how it goes. But yeah, the song sounds great instrumentally. It has a perfect blend of like the whimsical, lighthearted, almost cartoonishness that Eminem brings on a lot of these songs, with the kind of over-the-top horror influence that he's implementing on this album, with the piano that you can hear in the background during the chorus, and then those like, I don't know what you would call that. It's like, I'm just gonna call it like cartoon bass that's in the background, where it's like don 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 don. It's like very strange. I don't know how to explain it orally, but it just all works to make a track that is lighthearted enough that I could see it being played in mainstream areas. And plus, everybody loves the Eminem tracks where he just goes off and just raps as fast as he can. He ends the track with that, and that's always a treat. Whether or not he's even like saying the craziest words of all time, just hearing someone go off like that is always entertaining. And then let's go on to the bar facts. If you ever gave a damn, raise your hand, because I'm about the set trip vacation plans. And that's a medium bar by itself. Set trip, you're setting a trip like you're going on vacation. That makes sense. But set tripping is what I want to point out. He's about the set trip. Set tripping is when 2 people are in a gang, they're in the same side of the gang, so let's say they're both Crips, but you're from a different set, so like a different hood or a different, area or a different subsection of that gang, of that same gang. Set tripping is when you kill someone in a different set but the same gang. And that is crazy to hear from M, because M is already having to throw some shots at people who should be in his own camp, or should be in his own camp. Specifically Joe Budden, who we all know the shit that Joe Budden talked, before his retirement and after. That was very interesting to see. So yeah, I thought that bar was interesting because of its double meaning. And another bar, I got them racks so much ease. Oh, I got them racks with so much ease, they call me Diddy, because I make bands, and I call getting cheese a cakewalk. I thought that one was clever, not because, he gets money like he's P. Diddy. That's nothing. But it's the next bar, because I make bands, P. Diddy making the band, that old reality show he used to have. And then he references one of the episodes of that, where he made the contestants or whatever walk around New York and go get him a slice of cheesecake because he was craving it. And don't ask me how I know that. I used to watch, I think I've seen like maybe 4 or 5 episodes total of Making the Band. And that just happened to be one of the episodes I had seen. And I actually saw on Genius, they have a clip from that episode. So yeah, I thought that was just fucking remarkable. Just like, not in the fact that it's clever, but just in the fact that like how do you even remember this? And how is this even like at the forefront of your mind to put in a verse? Like, that's just fucking wild. So yeah, I think that's just like some deep, weird, that's just like some brain shit that I'm like, dude, your mind is strange. And then that takes us on to the most serious track of the entire album, I'd say, Darkness. Took me a while, but I like this track a lot. Now, when I say took me a while, when I first heard the track, I was kind of concerned, because I wasn't, the theme, the message of the song was kind of lost to me initially, where I initially thought, okay, he did this entire song from the perspective of the Mandalay Bay shooter, but why? Like, if it was just the story told coldly without any outside commentary, that would have concerned me, because like, that's not a story that needs to be retold, especially considering it happened 2 years ago, a year ago. It's still recent in our minds, so to retell it just didn't feel like, it didn't feel necessary. So when I heard that song just sight unseen, I hadn't seen the video yet, so I was like, that's weird. And then at the end where he's talking about like, well, I have a license permit and no prior convictions, so my supply is infinite, like, that was like, yo, that's true, but I don't know if this is social commentary or if this is like just describing the situation. I didn't quite know what to make of it until I watched the video, and then it answered all my questions, because literally the video ends with like all these mass shootings on TVs, and then, you know, the TV's fading into American flags, and then it fades to black, and then M's like, and then there's literally text on screen that's like, when will this end? When enough of us care? Go vote, vote.org. And I'm like, damn, okay, so that's what this is. It's literally just a song that's kind of trying to talk to how fucked up it is that we have all of these mass shootings. So I like the track. I liked how Eminem compares the mindset of a nearly active shooter to that of a person about to perform. I think it was pretty cool how he kept that metaphor going the entire song, and then finally broke the metaphor and let you know what the comparisons were at the end. I thought that was pretty neat. I think it kind of falls apart just a little bit because, as Eminem fans know, as all of us know, he uses a lot of violent imagery in all of his songs. So when he's rapping about like, you know, I'm taking a lot of shots, I'm getting loaded, you know, I reach for the scope, all these like things about guns, it makes sense for us stans because we know he raps like that. But for someone just listening to this, God forbid they listen to this on the radio, I don't know if this is the type. This isn't a radio jam at all. This is definitely a political statement more than anything else. God bless him. But yeah. Oh boy, I am getting text messages at the wrong time of night. So yeah, I think this song, I think because we're Eminem fans, we are used to him rapping like that, but I think to a casual listener, they'll pick up something's off with all of those gun references earlier in the song, and then we'll see that big revelation at the end coming a little bit more. But I also feel because we're Eminem fans, we probably, knowing his, you know, the fact that shootings come up a lot in his songs, we might already have that on our minds and see that coming as well. So in both ways, I think it kind of hurts that we would see it coming as well. But I still think overall, you know, it's less about the surprise and more about the statement. So yeah, I think that whole thing is interesting. I think I love just like what I wrote bar facts for this one. The bar facts is the whole damn song, because the entire song is just a double entendre, but not just for words, for an entire situation, for like an entire mindset. It was very cool to see him compare those two things, and you know, all of the references to alcohol and like making things from that, and like the only cap on my pop is off of vodka, and just like, you know, different things relating to guns and alcohol and pills and stuff like that. I thought all of that was pretty cleverly done. And so yeah, I think the song isn't the most clever song in the world, but I think it is fairly impactful. Hopefully, you know, this gets people to, because I feel there's so many people, like I say, I'm going to bring this up again, Kyles out there that are going to listen to this song and be like, oh, what the fuck was that? Don't know what that was. But if they watch the video, I feel like this could get to maybe not even to change their minds, because there's a lot of Kyles out there that listen to Eminem that love guns. So I hope they would, see something like this and realize, maybe my gun ownership isn't worth all of this shit. But hey, if it takes Eminem telling you that guns are bad to believe that guns are bad, then maybe you're already fucked. Darkness is great. Darkness is also produced by Royce da 5'9". That's the second track that he produced on here, and that I found that really interesting as well. The Sound of Silence sample that they use goes really hard on this instrumentally. It definitely matches the mood, and overall I think it's a great track. I don't know if it's one of my favorites on there, but if I had to put a top 5 songs from this album, it'd probably be number 5 or so. If it is on that list, it'd be number 5, maybe 6 or something. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good song. And so, yeah, after that, we get to Leaving Heaven featuring Skylar Grey. Now I'm going to say it right now. Skylar Grey produced this track. It sounds like it. This sounds so much like not a rap rock song and not even a country type song, but it's just so heavy on the acoustic guitars. And it sounds like it's made for like trailers. Like just the highs and lows of the instrumentation just feels like it matches with that big anticipatory thing they like to do in trailers for movies with the music, where it just has a lot of like boom 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 stop, boom 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 stop, boom 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 stop. Like it just has that constant beat where it's like high, it's like the music's going off and then stop, and the music's going off and stop. It just has that classical sound to it. And so that's one thing where I'm kind of like, okay, this instrumentation's like not overbearing, but very, we've heard it before. But I do like how, because the guitars are in it, just the intro of it made me think it was going to be like a Love and Happiness sample, the song from Al Green. I love that song, so I thought, oh man, M's using some Al Green? What the hell is this? What year is it? What world do I live in? Not what year is it? But yeah, it just turned out to be just, typical guitar solo that got mixed into the rest of the instrumentation. But still, it feels great. This feels like the most commercial song on the album by far, just for how it's built. Like I said, it feels like it's built for a movie trailer. But that's not the biggest criticism. It's not the biggest deal in the world. And yeah, it feels like it's a little bit redundant. This track seems like he's just talking about, his struggles growing up, the fact that his dad died and he still doesn't have much love for his father after death either. But he still appreciates him leaving, because that turned Eminem into who he ended up being. It hardened his heart a little bit, or just hardened M as a whole, so that he could become the man he was meant to be, I suppose. And so he's kind of reconciling with that, while also expressing his disdain for his father and and him leaving, and the life that caused Eminem to have. So overall, I think the song's fine. I don't have any problem. I don't have huge issues with it. Every now and then I might feel the need to skip this, but overall it's not a bad song. It's just like, it's there. So bar facts for this one. I like when he says, okay, so while Macklemore was keeping his room nice and neat, I was getting my ass beat twice a week. And that's a reference to Macklemore's line in Same Love with I forget her name. I'm gonna call her Miss Lambert, because I remember that's her last name. In that Macklemore song, he references how he thought he was gay because he kept his room clean. And that is just such a... It's not lame in and of itself. It's just so, like... I don't know. Like, it's not... No one's gonna think you're gay because you keep your room clean. Like, that might just be, something in his little group of adolescents that, he had shit talked on him for that. But it's just like... It just didn't make sense. And so that's just M clowning at that concept a little bit, where there's, I think Macklemore was saying that in a way to try to relate to the people he's shouting out in the song, because the whole song's about, love who you love and gay rights and stuff. And Macklemore not having personal experience with that, just trying to give some branch to that community, where Eminem is speaking more from a point of, hey, I rap for the downtrodden because I was the downtrodden. So Macklemore trying to extend that branch to the community is kind of limp when you go see Eminem's life. And no, Eminem isn't black at all, but he's been in poverty too. He's had, he's been judged for his pigment as well. in different ways, of course. Being a white person trying to break into a black industry through black art is just, you know, difficult. So he's had turmoil and stuff on his own side, but he tries not to let that define him, is the thing. And then the second bar I have is be triumphant, because when I'm looking at my legacy, a bunch of dogs trying to dry hump it like Triumph the Puppet, so I'm like, fuck it. I just like that because, you know, though a lot of these bars reference each other. When he's looking at his legacy, he's looking at his leg. I see a bunch of dogs trying to dry hump it, so I think that's, you know, clever wordplay there. And also Triumph the Puppet, which you might know from like encore era Eminem, when he had that song Ass Like That, where he did almost a whole song from the point of view of Triumph the Puppet, which was idiotic, but just a cool little reference for people who would pick up on that. And so yeah, and so I'm like, fuck it, because, you know, humping his leg, they're fucking the leg. That's a medium part of the bar, but overall I think that string of lines was pretty clever. And then we get to what damn near might be my favorite track on the entire album. Yeah. Holy fucking shit. This song is great. This is what I've been hoping Eminem would do for the longest time. This song has Royce da 5'9", Black Thought from The Roots, Royce da 5'9", of course, from Bad Meets Evil, and Slaughterhouse. And also has Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest, all on the same track. And of course, Danon, he's also a member of D12, but Danon, I don't think he has any vocals on the track, but he did produce it. And and of course, you get a sample from ODB of Wu-Tang Clan. This is just like a hip hop head's dream. Just seeing all these legends from all of these legendary groups get on one track together. It's just so awesome, so gratifying, and they all eat the track. Royce da 5'9", I'll say he has the weakest verse, considering he tore it down in You Gon' Learn, that verse went hard. And then in the verse that Royce has at the end of the album in I Will, he kills it as well. So him having the relatively weakest verse on this song is, you know, excusable, because, you know, Royce produced 2 of the songs and he's rapping on multiple tracks. Like, let him save some ammo for his own album. But it is cool to see him on here. Black Thought eats this fucking beat up. Black Thought, I forget all the time how great Black Thought is, and it's on tracks like this where he's just reminding people. And I sincerely hope, because I know people know Black Thought from, I think Jimmy Fallon is where the Roots play, so they know him from there. I hope this opens people's eyes a little bit more to like, oh wait, Black Thought can like fucking spit. Like, he is a legend. He has that legendary status in the rap community. I hope he gets that status a little bit more, you know, just in a mainstream basis. And so yeah, that was cool. And then of course Eminem gets on the beat, and I think Eminem's verse is pretty great. He does a really impressive thing towards the end of his verse that we're going to talk about in Bar Facts in just a moment. But overall, I think his verse was fine. And Q-Tip on the bridge was pretty great as well. I just loved hearing Q-Tip with all these people. Like, I keep telling M to embrace the fact that he is a legendary hip-hop figure and start working with these other hip-hop legends, and this seems to be one of the first steps of him doing that. Like, if you told me in the year 2020 that I would hear an Eminem song with Q-Tip on it, I wouldn't believe you, just because I thought, oh, they're too different. They're from 2 incredibly different lanes. I don't think that's gonna happen. But hey, I probably would have said the same thing for Eminem and Beyonce, and when that happened, I lost my goddamn mind. So I hope M stays in this lane where he's working with people who are super duper influential in hip hop, you know, current and past. And I hope it just continues. So let's get to the bar facts for this one. He does have, Eminem makes another MGK diss, but, you know, once again, this is just something he's using to spice up his bars. I don't think it's something anything we need to hyper specifically look at. So this Black Thought bar was really great. Leaving every amateur inoperable, I finished them, making plaques out of their head like dead venison. Oh my god, that took me a second to pick up on, because I was like, dead venison, plaques out of their head. He's talking about like the deer head with the antlers that are like above the fireplace in a hunter's house. I thought that was so cool. That, like, dead venison. Ooh man, that's clever wordplay right there. And he doesn't even have to rap super fast in order for his bars to hit as hard. Like, I thought that was great. Continuing, Used to be the Bad Lieutenant with M. Militant, spilling over fabulous jams. My man Dillicent, rap speak for me. I'm the ventriloquist. Like, rap speak for me. He doesn't have to open his mouth because his raps will be the ventriloquist dummy that speaks for him. That's fucking great. And then, of course, spilling over fabulous spilling over fabulous beats. My man Dillicent. Jay Dilla, one of the greatest hip hop instrumentalists of all time. Just giving him a shout out, and this is the type of music that Black Thought raps on and raps over. Some really good shit. Listen to I think Streams of Thought Volume 2 that came out last year. Outstanding little couple of short tracks, but just a great project from him. Just excellent stuff. And so yeah, Black Thought ate this track up. And then for Eminem, I'm not even gonna read this whole line because he literally just shouts out like 26 rappers at the end of his verse over like 7 or 8 lines. Sorry. And yeah, that was crazy, just hearing him go that long just listing people. I'm like, shit, you're really doing this. So I thought that was just crazy, and the fact that he made it rhyme, just insane, man. This guy is a fucking machine, which we all knew but at this point. And then that takes us on to the lowest point of the album for me, the highest highs and the lowest lows, and that is Stepdad. Yeah, Stepdad is not, it ain't it, Chief. I feel so bad. Now, Stepdad is one of these songs that Eminem makes a lot of songs like these throughout his discography. This kind of has a similar vibe to Puke from Encore, and also So Much Better from Marshall Mathers LP2. It's one of those songs where it's less about the lyrical wordplay. It's more about just expressing the sheer anger about something and just the sheer disgust and just all of the ugliest feelings about a topic. This is the type of song that M makes, where it's angry, aggressive, it's in your face, but at this point in my life, it's coming off as annoying. Like, you take that chorus and he's like, I hate my stepdad. It's just so like, okay, dude, we get you hate your stepdad. And I understand it feels weird for him to talk about stuff in this way because, M's, like I said, M's getting close to 50 at this point. I know you hate your stepdad. You're so old it doesn't matter anymore, but I understand he still has that passion and still has that rage within him, so I can't really get at him too long or get at him too much for writing from that perspective that he still has within him, even if it is deeply repressed at this point. But it just comes off as so whiny and just Eminem at his nasaliest when he's on this instrument, or when he's on this this hook. Just that hook is just so grating to me. And overall, he's painting a picture with his lyrics in this song more than anything else. And I like it when he paints pictures and everything. This just isn't a pretty picture. Like, it's just not a pleasant picture, and it's also like not a unique picture. Like, it's not offering anything new in the talk of being a stepchild. It's just like it's well-tread area that Eminem's talked about before. This combines the very aggressive hate genre song that I've talked about him making already, combines that with the fact that he hates his stepdad, which he's talked about hating his father forever, whether it's his real father or not. So like, it just feels redundant and just unpleasant to listen to. But I will say, pretty good bar facts here. But I've been reading at school about this shit called liquid cyanide. I'm fantasizing at night when he's sleeping at just the right time. Sneak up with a lethal injection and put him down like they did to my dog. I'm talking euthanasia, like kids in Taiwan. That shit's like Saigon. Neighbors called the police on him. So many battery charges, this dude's like lithium ion. Great string of bars there. First off, talking about the lethal injection with euthanasia. I love that euthanasia and youth in Asia, like kids in Taiwan. I think that's fucking great. And then Saigon, just making a reference to what I think it's now called Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah, that whole thing from the Vietnam War. Jesus, that's fucking like, that's clever, just connecting all these Asian threads. Like, I thought that was pretty clever, so good on him for that. And also, he loves to make like battery charging puns and stuff. Like, I've heard him, I, you would, if you got jumped, then I'd catch the battery charge. Like, bars like that from Shady 15. So having this lithium ion pun here is pretty good. I like it. Then we continue on to Marsh, which is another track where I'm so on it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good, but it's not like the greatest. Instrumentally, it's very, very interesting. I like how it sounds. It sounds very spacey, very otherworldly, which I guess makes sense because it is talking about Eminem being a Martian and everything, and how he isn't like anyone else and doesn't sound like anybody else. Lyrically, though, it's pretty hollow. This is the type of track where M's just, he's just playing with words for 2 or 3 minutes over an instrumental. He's not really saying anything of import, but this is about him. This isn't about him trying to make a big statement or a big point. This is about him just having fun. He's just playing with words, and I enjoy it when he plays with words. Excuse me. So yeah, it has, when I talk about the beat again, it reminds me a little bit of Campaign Speech, if you remember that song, a standalone track he put out in 2016. And that's the one that I had referenced earlier, where it was like 13-minute track with just like space sirens and weird like whining sounds in the background instead of an actual instrumental. It was very strange, and this beat, while this beat is way more structured than that, this is an actual beat that kind of has a groove to it. This kind of reminds me of that as far as the sounds that they use in the instrumentation. And like I said, the theme of the song is pretty hollow. I'll say that there's little ad-libs in the background of M just saying like Travis Scott like ad-libs, literally M at one point is like, it's lit in the background. And I thought that shit was funny to me the first time. So I think that's clever. And he's in on the joke too. He kind of, makes a little giggle after the first time you hear it. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And I have a couple of bar facts for this one too. Okay, some of these bar facts. So one of them ones he says, been fired, bitch, I can out-rap Reynolds. A patent pen will be great, but a napkin will do. Like, out-rap Reynolds, Reynolds rap. If you think about the aluminum foil brand, I thought that was clever. So he makes a reference to now they call me Butterfingers because I just keep dropping shit, in a reference to him dropping a lot of songs in a short amount of time, which I now that he's aware of it, I hope he understands that, hey, this has been great. Calm down a little bit before we get tired of it, because I do not want that to happen. So yeah, that's my biggest fear. Oh my God, that's my biggest fear. And also, you got no hitters. You might be pitching a shutout. She about to give up the dugout. I should go live in the nut house. I thought that one was clever in a vulgar way. Now, no hitters, pitching a shutout, that's all in a reference to the dugout. And, when someone gets dug out, that's a way for saying, you got up in them guts, which is another slang term. I'm not gonna explain, so you better just know. And then when he says I should just live in the nut house, I don't know if this is what he means, but when I first heard that, I was like, shit, because I thought he was referencing where what's a good place to put your nut in? Maybe your nut could live there, and if it's in there, maybe it'll grow for about 9 months and come out as something else. You can meet me halfway on that bridge. I don't want to be too explicit with that. And also treat you like a step parent does to a stepchild with red hair. Plus I get dough like Ed Sheeran, so call me the gingerbread man. I thought that bar was fucking great because, treat like a step parent like a stepchild does with red hair. Who has red hair? Ed Sheeran. What is Ed Sheeran? A gingerbread man. They both get money as well. Like, I thought that was a great, whatever entendre you want to call it. So I love that. That was awesome. And then we go on to the next track, Never Love Again. This is another song that Eminem has, the topic of the song, he has revisited to high heaven. This is literally, I think the last 2 tracks on Revival talked about this exact same topic. This is, of course, talking about his drug addiction and his addiction to pills and whatnot. And this sounds initially like a typical, breakup, hate to love you, love to hate you type of song. But at the end, it's revealed that, oh no, it's about pills. I think he, has some pretty clever parallels between, like taking your top off. People think he's talking about a woman, but no, he's talking about pills. And, all these other lines he has in reference to pills and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool. I think the whole song's a metaphor, so I think that's a pretty great bar. But the thing I love most about this track is the instrumentation. This instrumentation like feels so like, it feels grand in a way that Eminem rarely ever sounds like. The first half is, pretty good. If the first instrumental they used was the entire song, then this song probably would have been just like a medium for me. But it's that beat switch where the song suddenly turns into like a early 2000s Timberland hit. Oh my god, I thought that was so good. And then the way M rode that beat at the end was just fucking amazing. I just loved every minute of that. So yeah, Never Love Again was great. And like I said, bar facts for that one, the whole fucking song's a metaphor, so I think that's fucking great. So whenever someone's able to do that, gotta give my props there. The next one is Little Engine. There's another excuse for M to just play with words over a spacey, otherworldly sounding beat. I think this beat knocks a lot harder than Marsh. Marsh kind of seems like sporadic at times, where Little Engine feels very pointed and very like contained and then explodes and then contained and then explodes. And I like that dichotomy. I like that back and forth in the instrumentation. Let's see, playful and silly is how I explain the instrumentation as well. Definitely got some more playful vibes on there. And like I said, spaciness to match with Marsh. And there are a lot of bars in this one. We got like 5 bars for the bar facts. So bar facts on this one. I almost swallowed my car. I call my Mercedes a benzo, which a benzo is slang for a certain type of pill that people take. So when he says I almost swallowed my car, he almost popped the pill. So yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Once I realized what he was saying, I was like, oh, that's pretty clever actually. Another line, I ball like Jay, but not Jay as in Jay-Z, Jay as in Leno, because I got a huge man chin. No, huge man chin, because if you know Jay Leno, he has a very big chin. So that, I thought that was pretty clever. I was just like, oh, that's what you mean. Like that's pretty clever. Like a lot of these are bars that I just pick up after, like I said, my second, third, fourth listen, and I've still been listening since. So I just picked them up as I'm going through the album. Another one is I'm irritated, you about to meet a scary fate and come home to find yourself staring straight into the fucking barrel like Sharon Tate. I thought that shit was crazy. Because Sharon Tate, she was I think it was the Charlie Manson murders that happened in Hollywood. This is actually the same Sharon Tate that was portrayed in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie. And so I actually knew about this when I heard that bar, so that kind of stuck out to me. I was like, oh shit, it's crazy. So that was a pretty good bar. Another one, Success Overnight Like a Red Eye, Dressed Like a Jedi at Best Buy on the West Side. I'm Hot Dog. No, you're not. I'm the guy with the Oscar at Myers in Appliances by the Washer and Dryers. Oh man, so much good ones. Success Overnight Like a Red Eye, pretty good bar. Not the greatest, but pretty good bar. Dressed Like a Jedi at Best Buy on the West Side. Of course he's got a Dress Like a Jedi. I've made a joke about this when we were watching the prequels. The outfit that Liam Neeson had on in one of the scenes, dead ass looked like some like Yeezy season 4 shit. So hearing Eminem talk like he's dressed like that, it's like, kind of funny. And then I'm the guy with the Oscar at Myers. I'm Hot Dog. Oscar Mayer, like the Wieners. So that's a good, clever reference to the hot dog right before that. And then I'm the guy with the Oscar at Myers. Eminem is an Oscar winner for 8 Mile, let's not forget. So is that, and he's at Myers. Like, I just thought that was a crazy string of bars. And then the last one that blew my mind. This is like Eminem's classic, like chicka chick chick, like that type of flow. So chicka chick chick, chicka chick chick chill, like 0-0. I got zip zip zilch, like Kaepernick. I got nit nit nil. And I was like, wait, Kaepernick nil? What are you saying? And I had to think about it. I was like, oh, kneel. Like NIL sounds like Kaepernick when he kneels. So I was like, shit, you're saying you don't have any chill. You have 0 chill. Another word for 0 is kneel. And, it all came together. So I was like, damn, that one really hit me. Because I was like, I didn't get it for a while. I was like, what the fuck? And so, yeah, that was good. So, yeah, Little Engine, another great track. I enjoyed that one a whole lot. So then we go on to Lock It Up, a more slow-paced track, kind of like You Gon' Learn from earlier in the album. Slow-paced track, Anderson .Paak's on here. The beat on this one knocks. The beat on this one, it has a chill vibe, and it's chill in a way that's really refreshing on an Eminem album, because a lot of these Eminem songs are just on 10 the entire time. So it's really refreshing to have him just, vibe out with Anderson .Paak on a song like this. So I really like it. Instrumentally, it has like that, I don't know what the sound is, and pardon me for my ignorance, but it has that Japanese like Memoirs of a Geisha type sound, where it's like don 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 in the background, like that sound. Now I'm not talking about how people talk. I'm talking about like the literal musical instrument that makes a certain sound. It's like a plucking sound. Like if you ever played an Asian inspired video game, like when you go into like the Japanese level or whatever, and it's like don 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 don, that song, you know what I mean? It's that type of sound. I could not explain it for the life of me, but it has that sound in the background of the bass in this track, and it comes off smoothly. It is really pretty, and I really enjoy it. And of course, Anderson .Paak, he's great in almost everything he's in. So, on this album, he's great. He gets a verse, not like on the level of Eminem's verse, but he gets a verse on here, and it's pretty good. Like, Anderson .Paak, he fits on the song, so the song is good. And let's get to the bar facts real quick. Trying to save at Kroger, so why would I give a fuck about backstabbing Trader Joe for? That's clearly a reference to Joe Budden, who he sees as a backstabber for, being part of being put on by M in the form of Slaughterhouse, and then just talking shit on him as soon as that contract is done or whatever. So yeah, I thought that was like, oh, he's still, still thinking about that. So that's interesting. Another bar facts, give me the cue like I'm Schoolboy, and I'll treat the beat like a pit bull would do to a chew toy and destroy it. The whole pit boy and chew toy thing is, that's a medium bar. I really like this for the give me the cue like it's Schoolboy, Schoolboy Q. Put that together. I thought that was a pretty good bar. I thought it was somewhat clever, or just, even if it's not clever, it's satisfying to me. Satisfying. And then another bar, and I put the game on the pill. Now my shady babies are all stillborns, meaning abortions that live because they were stillborn. I can heal them with Neosporin. I thought that part was crazy, not because he's like talking about stillborn babies. That's kind of odd, but he rhymed stillborn with stillborn, but he used it in a different context that made it different. And I thought that was like, oh shit, that's crazy, because there are abortions that were stillborn, so that's where they're called stillborns. Like, I just thought that was like a pretty interesting way to make that rhyme happen. So yeah, I really like that bar, and that's pretty much for that one. The next one we're gonna get, this is a really surprising song. Farewell. Farewell is a motherfucking bop. I like this song so much. It has a tropical islandy vibe in its instrumentation. It's so fucking upbeat. Like upbeat to the point where it feels weird this is even an Eminem song. Like I could see this, like if you know that song Side to Side by Ariana Grande featuring what's her name, Nicki Minaj. That's what this song reminds me of. It has that like summertime upbeat, let's all turn up and get happy. That's the type of vibe I get from just the instrumentation. Now lyrically, of course, this is another Eminem song talking about, having your heart broken by a girl and all that other stuff. But it almost clashes on this beat, because it's such a like islandy summertime beat that him talking about like we could go blow our brains out in bed towards the end of the song. It just, that type of stuff just like feels like it's off-putting, but it's also understandable because this whole album has the vibe of a mixtape. And so to take an example from another mixtape, Lil Wayne's Dedication 6, I was listening to that, and Dedication 6 is basically him just taking other people's beats and rapping over them. And he has that one song, Every Day We Lit. That song, he raps over that beat, and he says some really off-the-wall shit, but he's just rapping. He's just using this really nice beat to just go off lyrically and just say whatever he wants to say. Where Eminem does that for this entire album as well. So when he gets a very pretty, pleasant beat like the one on Farewell, that's actually, it sounds so good because, I'll explain in a minute. When he jumps on a beat like that on Farewell, it kind of is shocking because you're thinking more in album mode that this has to appeal to the masses rather than, oh, just go off Eminem, like just say what you want to say. So yeah, that's kind of crazy. And it uses the sample from No Gains by Serrani, which is a song I've heard a bunch of times growing up. It's played in the club a lot. It's played all over the place. It's a very good song, classic song. You've heard it. You've definitely heard it before. If you're, I'm not gonna say if you're black, you've heard it, but if you are ethnic or are around ethnic people a lot, that you've probably heard this one. Especially if you're around like some Jamaicans, Trinidadians, Islanders of any sort, they probably have heard this song or have played it. So yeah, this is the type of shit that, you know, this is some Stella Got Your Groove Back soundtrack type music. So yeah, I really enjoy Farewell. And the producer of this is Ricky Rax. Yeah, that's the one. Ricky Rax, who's also worked with Young Thug and Migos. So I think the fact that this song sounds so much like a great pop hit probably has something to do with the fact that Ricky Rax has worked with these other big hip hop, also with pop appeal stars. So yeah, big ups to this track. One of my favorites on the album by far. So good. Even though lyrically it's the typical breakup song, but it just goes so hard that I gotta give it props. That's the lemonade I was drinking. So yeah, it just sounds so nice that I gotta give it props. Bar facts for this one, just one. But nothing comes to mind besides the number 90, because since 06 you flipped my life upside down. I thought that was clever because I was thinking like 9, like you flip, because at first I thought the number 9 and then 06, and I was like, oh wait, you flip it over, that is the number 90, and I was like, okay, that's clever. It took me a while to get there, but that's pretty damn clever. And so getting to the last 3 tracks here, or just last 3 things on the album, No Regrets, featuring ooh, God, what's this man's name? Wow, I am trash. Let me look up this man's name. I have Spotify open right now. Don Toliver. Don Toliver, it's fine. He's totally okay on this song. Just this song in general doesn't do it for me. I don't know if I put... Yeah, I didn't straight up give it a thumbs down because lyrically M does talk a little bit about, you know, some of the fallout after Kamikaze. And, you know, it's a little bit more of an introspective track, which we don't get too much of on this album. And when I say introspective, I don't just mean talking from the anger that he had when he was 13. I'm talking about, like, things that are happening in his life right now, that type of introspection. Seeing that, I do like that aspect of it, but just this comes off as, like, such a chill... I like that Eminem's using more chill instrumentals. I think that's something to commend him for. But this just comes off as like that emo trap type wave, you know, something that like artist that my little brother listens to a lot is Rod Wave, and a lot of his songs sound so like melodramatic, like he's singing over these trap beats and it just sounds like he's gonna cry at any moment. And Don Toliver on this album or on this track sounds like that just a little bit. And I really don't want to, like, you know, throw shade or anything, because I'm sure Don Toliver is great. I actually didn't know who Don Toliver was until I saw him on this album. So, you know, props for getting this feature. But yeah, it just the hook doesn't do it for me that much. The instrumental doesn't bop, and it doesn't have like a groove to it. It's just like chill to be chill. It doesn't have like a groove where I'm like, I can feel that beat. Nah, it's just there. And so, not the biggest fan of the track overall, but I will say this does also add to the mixtapey vibe of the album, because it sounds like, I don't know, it just sounds like a B-side. This whole song just sounds like a B-side, and I'm just not the biggest fan of it. Long story short, but we'll talk about the bar facts on this one real quick. Some targets get the kill shot, some I just barely nicked them. This is of course a reference to his kill shot diss track to MGK, and then the fact that he didn't even make a diss track for Nick Cannon when he was throwing songs at him. And the song, what I like, is called No Regrets, but he's talking about regrets in this song, and I think that's like the the ironic part about it. Because if you look at the next bar facts that I have here, misplacing my anger enough to give Earl and Tyler the Creator the blunt. And I think that's his indirect way of apologizing to Earl Sweatshirt and Tyler the Creator, because he actually called them out on Kamikaze for talking shit on Revival. And when that happened initially, when I heard that on Revival, I was like, yo, I know for a fact Tyler the Creator is a massive fan. And Earl the Sweatshirt probably loves you too. So to call them out for being fans just seems super weird and super wrong to me. And yeah, and of course the whole controversy about using the F word in relation to Tyler, that kind of just blew up in his face, and he probably shouldn't have even gone for that. And you could tell there was a little bit of tinge and regret from that already before this track, because from the Sway interview he did when Kamikaze launched, Sway asked him about that, because Sway's way more level-headed than Eminem. And so Sway was telling him, like, yo, Tyler's a fan, like, you came for him. I feel you probably should have talked that out with him before jumping on a track about it. And that's how I felt about it too. So it seems cool. I don't know if they've patched things up off camera or off mic. I don't know if they've talked to each other independently, but it's cool to see him, reconciling that a little bit, because I definitely thought that was weird and that was whack that had happened. So, shout out to M for that one, for expressing that regret. And then the penultimate track on this album, the final track is a skit, so it's whatever. But the penultimate track is another one of my favorite songs on this album. I Will, featuring The Return of Slaughterhouse Baby, Royce da 5'9", King Crooked, formerly Crooked I, and Joel Ortiz with Eminem at the end. I love this track. Oh my god, it gives me vibes of back when Shady 15 came out and they had that song Psycho Killer. No, it was a Psychopath Killer. It gives me vibes of that, where it has that that spooky, hazy, like we're about to kill shit vibe, but it also has that vibe of Our House from Slaughterhouse's first Shady album, and at this point only Shady album, where it's like, we're hungry, we're gonna eat this boom bap beat up, we're gonna just lyrically show what we can do. And boy do they. This is the most bar facts I have for the entire album. It's just really, I love Slaughterhouse so much. Slaughterhouse is one of my favorite groups of all time. Excuse me. One of my favorite things in music of all time. I just love Slaughterhouse with a passion. They are probably even more than Eminem, because I've been an Eminem fan for like a decade or more, but I was just liking it just for, I just liked it because it was cool. I didn't really get into like the lyrical examination of Eminem too hard until I started listening to Slaughterhouse, and Slaughterhouse just put it in your face. And where Eminem was like making, songs for radio more or less for a lot of his career, where Slaughter wasn't necessarily doing that. They were trying to just like out rap each other, and that was the first time I had seen, artists trying to out rap each other actively on a song, with each person stepping up to the plate to try and do better than the last. I thought that was fascinating. And so they just like took my entire heart back when they came out with their self-titled album before Shady. And then, of course, all the stuff they did with Shady. And each one of those guys now, I still listen to Joel Ortiz. I still listen to King Crooked. I listen to Joe Budden every now and then. He doesn't make new music, but his last album that he put out before he retired, I thought that was pretty great. And he has some good songs in his past. So, and of course, Royce da 5'9". Love Royce da 5'9". The stuff he's doing with Preem and Prime. I just love every member of Slaughterhouse individually, and to see them almost entirely back. Joe Budden, he's retired, so he's no longer on the mic anymore. But it's just really cool to see. It's just really cool to see them all here. I was super excited about that. And of course, Eminem, he's good on here. But this song, the reason I like this song is for Slaughterhouse. Eminem's fine, but like it's the fact that he brought them all back. That's what excites me. So let's get into this bar facts as we've reached almost a minute or almost an hour and a half into the video. Let's hit the bar facts for the final track. So Royce da 5'9" says, lyrically, I'm James Todd, Tariq Trotter minus the cap. And I thought that was cool because James Todd is LL Cool J's legal name and Tariq Trotter is Black Thought's legal name. So two of these lyrical legends, Royce da 5'9" is that incarnate. And when he says minus the cap, Tariq Trotter, you always see him with his signature cap on. And so, Royce da 5'9" doesn't really wear hats anymore. You see him with the bald head a lot now. So, a little shout out to Black Thought, who he shared the mic, or who he shared a track with earlier in the album. So I thought that was cool. Another Royce da 5'9" bar, Sacha Baron Cohen, Pharrell, where am I going with this? Oh yeah, I bar at will. I thought that was clever because he bars at will, like he raps whenever he wants to, but also Borat and Will. You know, Will Ferrell and Sacha Baron Cohen did play the role of Borat, so I thought that was dope. So going into Crooked Eyes bars, some good ones from him. John Wilkes, that's who I'm in the booth like. Abra, I go ham for dead presidents. Oh man, this isn't the first time he's even made like Abraham Lincoln references in his bars. But that John Wilkes, I'm pretty sure that's the first time I've heard that from him. John Wilkes Booth, of course, is the man who assassinated Abraham Lincoln. So just that whole, both those bars were just filthy to me. Another Crooked Eye bar, or another King Crooked bar, like M and the Doctor with no guilty conscience. I'm still shocking, like dropping a boombox in bathwater, more shocking than a pissed off Blanca. All three of those bars are dope. You know, I'm still like Eminem and Dr. with no guilty conscience. Guilty Conscience is, of course, the first song that Eminem and Dr. Dre, excuse me, the first song that they both were on back all the way in the Slim Shady EP. I thought that was a cool reference. I'm still shocking like dropping a boombox in the bathwater. That's pretty self-explanatory, but more shocking than a pissed off Blanca. Blanca is from Street Fighter. He's the like green dude that is electric. Oh man, my hiccups are coming back. Shit. And so, yeah, hearing that, I was like, yo, that is a fucking bar and a half. Like, good on you for that. And then we go on to Joel Ortiz. I just finished fucking A Fish Called Wanda. You know, a fish is like a slang term for someone who's like, you know, smells not the best in the lower regions for a woman. So, you know, that's what that is as far as slang goes. But Fish Called Wanda, that's a reference to Fairly Odd Parents. Like, that's some like, you're referencing my Nickelodeon childhood now. Like, you're on another level right now. So I thought that was pretty good. Your Willy Wonka persona won't help you any longer. I'm Optimist. I make prime examples out of mini Tonkas. I thought that shit was crazy because Willy Wonka is just like, you know, flamboyant, colorful lifestyle, and that's how a lot of these, you know, SoundCloud rappers or even these young ignorant rappers are acting like nowadays. He's making a reference to that, but also the Optimus Prime line. He's an optimist because he's just optimistic, but he's using that Optimus Prime connection, and then he makes examples out of mini Tonkas. If he's Optimus Prime, he's tearing up these little trucks. I thought that was just so cool. Like he's just fighting these other Transformers. I thought that was dope. And then also, your boss on par, like good golfers. I put a hole in one of your birdies with this eagle and launch it, bro. I thought that was great because, you know, everything he said in those series of bars were like golf metaphors or golf just words. You know, your boss is on par, like good golfers. If you're good at golf, you're on par, like in the scoring system. And then I'll put a hole in one of you birdies, which is another golf term, with this eagle, as in Desert Eagle, which is also another golf term, and launch it. Like, I thought that shit was just spectacular. I love that so much. And then going off of the Slaughterhouse bars into Eminem's part, this is the final bar facts of the video. She heard some Wu-Tang coming towards the patio. She was like, what the heck was that? She went to check on the noise and go inspect the deck. Then I jumped out with a sword and yelled, protect your neck. I thought that was great because, you know, inspect the deck, one of the members of Wu-Tang Clan. And so she went to go inspect the deck to see what that sound was. And then that's when, you know, Eminem comes out with a sword and says, protect your neck, which is a Wu-Tang Clan song from 36 Chambers. And so, yeah, love that so much. And then, of course, the final track is just an outro from Alfred Hitchcock that just wraps up the album and kind of wraps up the entire theme that he's trying to go for. And I've already talked about my thoughts on the skits, so we're not going to go too deep into that. And yeah, that's the end of my fucking review. Thank God I said all of my general impressions at the beginning of the album, because this probably would have been about an hour in. I would have said my impressions. Oh my God, that would have been horrible. No one would have watched this video. So yeah, that's how I feel about the album. Overall, I like the album. The album feels like comfort food. If you're an Eminem fan, this album just feels like comfort food, especially if you're more of a fan of Eminem from the hip-hop lyrical perspective. This is comfort food for you. This is comfort food for me. I enjoy it. But the thing about comfort food is it stops being a comfort if it's all I eat. So hopefully M will tape the success of Kamikaze, tape what is hopefully a success of this album, because I think this album's great. I think, especially for hip-hop heads, this is going to be a pretty good album for them. I think if he takes a break after this and doesn't suffer from the Logic syndrome of dropping too frequently, and then we get tired of his same tropes and his same ideas, I think he could definitely come back with something, legendary status potentially after this. So hopefully he takes that advice. Like I said, keep embracing the fact that you're a legend in hip hop, M. And when I say that, lean on the Black Thoughts, lean on the Q-Tips, lean on the Royce the 5'9s. These people who are also legends in the industry. Start collaborating with them more. Don't be afraid just because you have this largely predominantly white fan base on one side of your fan base. Don't let that stop you from working with these legends in the hip hop community that a lot of these Kyles that listen to your music aren't gonna know. Don't let that stop you from reaching over to that side of the aisle, because you definitely can hold your own with them and they can hold their own with you. So yeah, continue doing that. Keep working with these young kids. Like the Juice WRLD feature was great. Anderson .Paak was great. I almost said Don Toliver. I think it's Don Toliver. That is it. Tom Dolliver. Anyway, keep working with these young kids. Young M.A. on here too. You work well with them. I think you should keep extending that hand to the new generation. Kind of J. Cole-esque, I'd say. And yeah, overall, just keep working on it. Keep using the modern instrumentation from a lot of these more contemporary producers. And I think M can go on to have a continually relevant career despite all of the haters, despite all of the naysayers. I think he could stick around for, maybe not another 20 years, but definitely another 10. I don't know if this man wants to keep spitting like this at 60, but hey, he said he's going to be rapping till he's fossil fuel, so God bless him. So without further ado, that's the end of my review. Thank you guys for watching this whole thing. Sorry it's so long. I like Eminem a lot. I like hip-hop a lot. I talk a lot. It's a problem. Hopefully the other videos aren't going to be this long. You see the other, movie review videos. Those aren't too long. So just watch some of that if you want to watch something else. And also, hopefully you were listening to this as a podcast, because this fits better as a podcast. But anyway, that's the end from me. I'm going to stop talking before it gets to 140. And this has been the video. So without further ado, this is Emmett Watkins Jr., also known as EJ Sponge61 on Twitter, which will be linked below, and, Instagram, anything else you can think of. And I will see you in the next video, or I'll see you over at VGU.tv, which is where I write and do videos, or, elsewhere on the internet. And as I always say, keep it real, keep it trill. Adios.